just a matter of discussing it.
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah, well, let's. I'm pumped, man. Let's do this.
Yeah. So hey, man, I just want to start with what you're passionate about right now. Like, you know, people come on my show all the time. We talk about fitness. We talk about building your arms and, you know, doing cardio and all that cool stuff. But I want to talk about what Vince is passionate about today. Like, what really gets you up in the morning? What gets you rocking and rolling?
Man, elevation worship.
Yes. I love it.
I'm serious, man. My church that we got plugged into this past year in Toronto has been, I hate using this word game changer. I just did a post on there's nothing that really changes the game. But if I had to put one thing beside the word game changer, it would be getting connected to this church, the worship music, and the pastor, Stephen Furtick. The word each week has just really, really grounded me. I've just really just embraced my faith much more this year, specifically, you know, being a dad and, you know, realizing that, you know, I've got to lead a family before I lead a big audience on Instagram and Facebook. Like, there's 3 people in this home that are far more important than anybody who follows me on Facebook or subscribes to my newsletter. And so that's the church. My faith has really helped it's grounded me and helped me find my identity in what actually matters. So I haven't associated my identity as much with numbers and worldly success, which is, you know how it is, man. You know, all the guys we roll with, these guys are crushing it. And, you know, these guys are they're playing for keeps, you know. You know what I'm saying? These guys aren't screwing around. So it can do a number on you if you're not grounded and you don't know what your identity is found in. So I've really anchored my identity to my faith and my relationship with God. And that has really helped me have a new perspective on the pace that I'm going and finding my identity more in my self-worth as opposed to my net worth.
I love
so that's what I'm passionate about. Just like now going on this journey, allowing the world to see what's really important to me and just letting the cookies fall where they may. Cause, you know, and it's interesting because people say, Vince, aren't you afraid that sharing your faith and stuff on your platform is going to hurt your business? And I'm like, how do you know it's not helping my business? How do you know this isn't my unfair advantage? How do you know this might not be my steroids that you don't know I'm taking? You know what I'm saying? It's like,
hey,
people are like,
Church got some followers there, buddy. Got a lot of followers.
yeah, exactly. Right. So exactly. Elevation. I mean, they've got bigger Instagram followings than most influencers. So yeah, but that's kind of the thing that I'm passionate about these days, just now allowing the world to see who I really am and, not being afraid to lead with Vince Delmonte. I went through a couple of years ago. I got attacked hard on social media from like all the evidence-based science guys, and my name got run through the mud. Attracted a lot of haters who just wanted to take me down, and it affected me. I wish I could say like, oh yeah, it was awesome. It was great for the comments. It was great for the publicity. No, it wasn't. I wish I see the value in it now, but you know, I'm glad it happened looking back. But at the time, I wasn't glad it was happening. I wish it didn't happen at the time, but now looking back, I'm glad it did. So yeah, I've had to like embrace Vince Delmonte, and I was kind of like trying to, you know, I kind of lost my confidence in myself for a period of time.
Yeah, because I see you talking about what I believe you call the 5 M's of masculinity, right? And I know as a young dad and a Christian myself, you know, and someone who being involved in the health and fitness space, you talk a lot about things that impact me on a daily basis specifically. And selfishly, you know, when I wanted to get you on, it wasn't just because I know my audience will absolutely love your content, but it's because I love it, right? I think that it's eye-opening for me to see someone else who I consider to be super, super successful dealing with things that a lot of people just aren't talking about, right? And one of them definitely is faith. But I want to get into the 5 M's because I think that's going to be massive for the guys listening and even the ladies listening, because I know they have men in their life that they want to impact and they want to see get better. And so let's just talk about that, because one thing that I do want to address before we jump into specifically what they are, but you talk a lot about topics that I think people are uncomfortable to talk about, right? And recently you mentioned pornography, and that one, like, I almost had to like, wait, what? Where are you going with this, dude? Like, hold on a second, you know?
Is he really going here?
Yeah, stop. But it was like, wow, you know, like that was my first reaction. And then I said, this is really important. You know, that's number 2. Like, wow, what the hell is he doing? And then, oh my gosh, this is really important, because of who we are as men in the world we live in, right? Where we're just bombarded with these images and these ideas and of what we should have and who we should be. And a lot of it is whether it's actual porn or if it's like porn for money or porn for this.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, man. Let's start there. I think that's a good place to start, because I know everyone's going to be like, oh God, what are we about to get into?
Well, yeah, I finished reading a great book called Surfing for God. And it was written by a man named Michael John Cusack, who struggled with sexual addiction while he was in Christian ministry. So this was a man of faith who had, a lot of illicit sex affairs, prostitution, you name it. He came on my podcast and I interviewed him. He shared all this openly. It's in his book. He got found out by his wife. His wife didn't know this was going on. And you can imagine the devastation that caused. And, the big thing is like, this is a real fight that's going on. This isn't an external thing, but, porn hijacks your brain. There's tons of medical reasons that porn is unhealthy. There's a ton of psychological, spiritual reasons that it doesn't help you thrive as a man. So, why am I talking about porn? Because the M5 message is all about helping men maximize the 5 M's of manhood: muscle, mindset, money, mission, and marriage. And I challenge any man listening, and I don't think that this isn't like a judgmental thing. I think some guys might be kind of wondering, like, what's the big deal? And we address that. What is the big deal? I mean, we could talk about that for a long time. And, the amount of ugly, disgusting things that happen behind the scenes in that world with these women who are used and abused and kicked to the curb. And, I don't think any woman woke up one day saying, I want to, have 10 guys naked in front of me with, I'm not going to, go there, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So when we watch it, we're supporting that. And we don't need to go there, but the long story short is that porn doesn't help you thrive. It isn't going to help you become the best version of yourself. It's going to make you worse in bed. And the big problem with it is that it makes you feel like you're a man without having to be a man. There's no sacrifice involved while you're, fantasizing and acting out to these imaginary women who are actresses, who are being paid to do everything that you're fantasizing about. It doesn't teach you how to deepen your own relationship with a real flesh and blood woman. And it makes you look at woman as an object and as a pure piece of meat to satisfy your needs and your desires. And it was never intended that way, right? So one of the reasons we have to talk about porn is because if we don't get a hold of this area of your life, it can ruin you. It can literally, your business can burn to the ground. Your reputation and character will crumble. You will lead a silent life that nobody else knows, and you'll suffer in silence. And you can, you can wreck your physical life with late nights and missing your workouts and not being productive on the work site. So if we don't get a hold of this, this will prevent us from unlocking our full potential as a man. It will not help us be a leader and a hero and a lover inside our home, and to love our wife in a way that shows your kids what it means to love mom, because that's the true way you show your act of being a great husband, by loving your wife. And how do you love your wife if all you have together is, a relationship that consists on her meeting your needs at your convenience, or you getting miserable and upset and mad because she can't meet your expectations, and it's because you're not meeting hers. And women are designed for intimacy. And the way I describe intimacy is for us men, it's the 10 minutes of sex, and for women, it's the 50 minutes leading up to those 10 minutes of sex. So we're getting that 10 minutes, but she's not getting that 50 minutes leading up to it. So all of a sudden, you've got issues in the household, and we all know if mama's not happy, ain't nobody happy. And if dad's not happy, ain't nobody cares. So we need to really focus on, addressing this stuff or else again, we're not going to be able to maximize these other 5 areas. So that's where the porn conversation came in to play. And, you know, in my monthly newsletter, I did a little section on some things that you can do to start getting a hold of this area of your life. And, you know, one thing, just practically, like I've got filters on my phone. So if someone had access to my phone, it's impossible to get porn on my phone. And you can't get it on my wife's phone. And I have 2 other phones in the house that I use for social media. And I've just blindly put passcodes on them. It's like, so I'd have to go to the Apple store and say, hey, can you guys figure it? Like, I don't know how to take the passcodes off. So, it's crazy because it's kind of like certain food, right? You know, if you have cravings for hamburgers and, you know, French fries, and you go out into the forest for a week, you lose those cravings out of mind, out of sight. And I found it's kind of the same thing with porn. If you just don't have access to it, you don't feed that dopamine and remind yourself of how good it feels. So you can kind of starve this craving, if you will, by just not having access to it. And, you know, putting other steps into play, like when I travel now, you know, I'm not gonna room alone, you know, practical things like that. So on your computer, you can, you know, download software like covenanteyes.com, and for a couple bucks a month, you can have an accountability partner that sees what websites you visit. So there's a lot of practical measures that you can take, but the big thing with porn is that really we don't want to be, what we really need to do is reorient our life around something much greater. And I think that's what's missing in a lot of men's life. Their life isn't oriented around maximizing their ability as a man, in their physical, in their relational, in their spiritual, in their business, in their family. So when we start to have a bigger vision for our life, then this stuff, like, it doesn't really make sense to even have it apart, because it's not contributing. It's really like holding you back and robbing you of your potential as a man, and stealing your time and stealing your soul. And you know, if we're not functioning properly under the hood, then the car's not going to drive properly. So that's kind of the reason the porn conversation has come up, and it will continue to come up, because it's not like a one-time fight and it's over. Like, this is a fight that we will struggle with the rest of our life, even with the filters, even with the accountability partners. Maybe not as much, maybe certain seasons more than others. So to just open this conversation up and be real about it, and just say, hey, I struggle. I have cravings. I act on them more than I would like to admit. And I'm fighting the fight, though. I'm fighting this fight. This is not an acceptable fight to lose. And here's how we can go on, and we can surround ourselves with men like Michael John Cusack and many other people out there. There's resources like xxchurch.com that have lots of programs and events that you can get connected to win this battle over your life. And this, in my mind, is the most important fight that we fight as men, or else, like I said, your marriage is going to crumble. One day, your wife is just going to step up, and she's going to finally speak out, and she's going to say, I'm out here. I'm done. And you're going to be left there standing. I don't know what happened. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know what happened? You neglected her needs for 10 years. You know, what do you mean you don't know what happened? So anyways, there are consequences to not getting a hold, you know, taking this seriously, because we're created mind, body, and soul. We're not just physical beings. You know, we're not just intellectual beings. We are spiritual beings as well. And to think that this stuff is not rotting your soul from the inside out, I think a lot of men do know this intuitively, but again, you have to start with, like, you can't fake it. You can't fake that this isn't an issue, because, you know, our pastor, Stephen Furtick, says you can't fix what you fake. So it starts with, you know, a lot of us men, we go through life lying, and we don't admit what's wrong. And, you know, again, if you're lying and you've figured out how to come forward with the perfect reputation, then I'm going to be like, hey, man, it looks like you're doing amazing. I mean, there's nothing to talk about. So they end up screwing themselves over. They back themselves into a corner, and there are people are like, yeah, you're doing great, man. Keep crushing it. And then we, you know, so that becomes another problem too. So now you're suffering in silence, as two of my coaches say.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, there's so much we could talk about there. I'm curious though, you know, with the 5 M's, you know, there's probably guys listening that go, you know, I got a couple of them nailed down. You know, I have the money. Maybe I have the muscle, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to get all of them to where they need to be without sacrificing one or two of them, right?
Great question. Yeah, great. Yeah.
How is that something that you've and I don't want to say master, because maybe you have, maybe you haven't, I don't know, but maybe this
Yeah.
is something that you're passionate about, with getting those 5 areas where they need to be and also keeping them there, right? Not just temporary.
Yeah, for sure. So it really requires an inventory on where you're at in these 5 areas. I'm actually creating a whole framework so that guys can identify where they're at. And the way I like to describe it is seasons. We all go through, seasons of life, right? And seasons change, right? The climate changes, right? We have to understand that this isn't the climate for the entire year. This is the temperature right now during the season of life. So it's the first understand the season you're in and to embrace it. If it's summer, embrace summer. Get out there. It's hot. Enjoy the heat. It's winter time. It's cold. Get out there and do what you're going to do. Like, embrace the season you're in. Like, every season comes with pros and cons, and to understand that it will pass, and we can go through these seasons over and over. So depending on what stage of life you're in, one of these things is going to kind of pop out to you more than others. It might be your health, where you just can't, you're not in a position to build a business because your physical health is just, it needs attention. Maybe you want to start a fitness business, but you're out of shape, or you're suffering from anxiety and you need to get a therapist to, right now the season of life is not to get a coach, because a coach is just going to be far too intense for you. You need to find a therapist to deal with some of the stuff going on in your mind. And you have to, in fact, go back in the past and understand why you're thinking the way you think right now, before then you're in a position to go out and maybe start a business, or to maybe pursue a higher mission in life. So it's really understanding that we can have it all as men, but like Oprah Winfrey says, that we just can't have it all at once. And, if you just look at my life in, really practical stages, I spent the good bulk of my high school days as a runner, competitive athlete, just developing my endurance, my ability to go the distance in a race and to go the distance in my training. And that built up a lot of mental fortitude that I have taken into other areas of my life. So that was a long season of my life. So if there's athletes listening, you might just need to double down on your athletics right now, and just to see the season through, to see the next 4 years through of eligibility that you have in university, or to, if you're trying to become a pro, go become a pro and see where, that might be the season you're in. And everything else, you might not be in a situation to get into a relationship right now, or to start a business right now, or to go, speak about what you really want to speak about. So we have to understand that we have capacity. And when we try and spread ourselves thin, the definition of multitasking is trying to do 2 things, doing 2 things poorly at the same time. Sorry. And a lot of us are masters at multitasking. We can do a lot of things really poorly at the same time. And I want to avoid that. So what's also interesting about the 5 M's is they all build upon each other. So, a lot of people, they, get that physical in tune earlier on in their life, and that's fantastic. And it's a great place to start because it's tangible, it's measurable. We can see the difference in the mirror. We can start seeing that, oh, wow, life is a metaphor. The gym's a metaphor for life. If I can build a great body, then I can maybe start building a business or something. So because it requires hard work, it requires consistency, it requires failures, it requires setbacks, problem solving, it requires focus. So all those things can be transferred into the next area of your life. And, that will all get taken into, the final piece, marriage, when we get into a relationship, which is the hardest piece. That's why marriages last. Muscle comes first because it's the easiest part, right? It's far easier than building your mind, right? We have to build our bodies, and then we can build our mind. You see, if you follow a lot of guys on Instagram, there's these guys with these massive followings with these like Greek god physiques, and then you have a conversation with them and they've got scarcity mentalities. They're not confident. Their bodies have changed, but their minds haven't kept up. Their body evolved way faster than their mind, and they're, insecure. You can ruffle their feathers really quickly by like kind of, if you throw the right jab, you can quickly see how insecure these guys are. And they have these scarcity mindsets. Like when I was in the fitness world, I discovered this. Like I'd go to these shows, the Olympia and the Arnold Classic, and you start talking about stuff. Hey, what's working in your business? And they quickly think you're trying to take something from them, or you're just, they go into the scarcity mindset and they hold their cards close to their chests. and they don't open up, and you're like, oh dude, I was just curious to know how that was going. I wasn't trying to like
Steal all your stuff.
yeah, cool. Holy cow, like they think they invented everything, or like they're God's gift to the world, but like their mind hasn't evolved. They've got this like body that is like on a whole nother level, but their mind hasn't changed at all. And it's interesting that can actually happen, but it happens. So that's why like these two things are separate. So we develop the body, then we develop the mind. And then after we start, addressing things that might be going on in our mind that are limiting beliefs, then those things will start giving us the confidence to take bigger steps, bigger actions, maybe to making more money. Is that making money beyond just like a job? It comes with a whole ball of challenges as well. There's risks involved. There's no guarantees if we start to venture out on our own to create a business. And now we have to start creating value for the world, and that's scary. And that's not secure. That's not your 9 to 5. That's not your summers off. That's not your weekends off. That's not so now we're trying to excel in a workforce to make more money. And what I found is like most people get into a career at the beginning of their life, and their career is really rooted in something they enjoy doing, something they're credible on. But it's not like their life calling. Like deep down, they do know like I'm meant for something else. Like I like what I'm doing and this is cool and it's paying the bills. But it's like, I don't fully want to do this. And that's why mission comes next. So you go from money to mission, because a lot of us, for me practically is like, I've considered what I've been doing the last 10 years as a YouTuber and author is more of a career. It hasn't been my true calling. Like, I don't think God put me here on this earth to help guys build their biceps, but that was a necessary step to build the audience. I know deep down I have way more to offer the world. And I feel my mission here on life is to help raise men up to think about all 5 M's and to do more with their life than just build a great body. Because the truth is there's a lot of guys out there that can do that better than me. But what I feel like I've been put here to do is to be a real man and to show what that looks like, and show them that you can develop all these 5 things without sacrificing your family, without, letting your fitness go, and going from your, a career to a calling, just going from making money to now moving towards like a higher mission in life. That's scary as well, because now you might be talking about new subject matter that is is the audience going to embrace this? Is it, I was just listening to a podcast with Lewis Howes, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I hope I'm seeing him actually in a few days. And I think he suggested something like this new book he came out with, The Mask of Masculinity. While it did great, I don't think it did as well as The School of Greatness. And to me, it's like not a huge surprise, because he's just talking about subject matter that men don't want to talk about, and people don't want. So it's like, why are you surprised that your audience isn't as big when you start talking about some of this real? Yeah, like Vince, stick to biceps, man. Stick to helping me get my abs. Stick to my macros. Stick to my metabolism. Stick to mechanics, Vince. Like, don't talk about becoming a better man. Don't talk about sacrificing my dreams and sacrificing my goals. Yeah, don't talk about porn, Vince. Don't talk about my vices. Don't talk about me having to be it's like, and then at the same time, what the crux is that everybody's talking about becoming the best version of you. Well, that's impossible if you're not going through pain. And pain is what produces growth. So, it's a little painful right now going through this like new conversation, and I'm even unsure of like, is there a monetization model here, or is this going to become just something I do because it's what I feel like I'm called to do? And you start having these fears. Should maybe I go back just to stick with fitness, or do I keep pressing forward and talking about what I feel like is my true mission? And that's why the mission comes a little later in life, because sometimes you need some money to fund the mission and to make some decisions that are like, this isn't producing the same kind of bank that, just fitness did, but you have to think long-term and figure out like, where am I ultimately going, and where do I want to lead men? And most guys who have a higher mission in their life are like, they realize like, it's not like instant dollar bills, but at the end of the day, they will feel far more fulfilled. And it's because they're now moving away from finding their identity in their net worth to their self-worth.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea who has this quote. It may be something I just made up in my head, to be honest, but it was like, when you tell the truth, right? I mean, or when you're real about what you're passionate about, you have the luxury of being able to talk about the truth, right? Which is huge, right? Because like you alluded to with, because we know all the fitness guys. I mean, I know guys with million plus followers on Instagram that are, just killing the game. But if you talk to them in person, you'd have no idea, right? You'd have no idea because you're like, this person doesn't have the mental game locked down. They, like you said, the scarcity mindset where, they think they invented Instagram or something, right? It's like, dude, like everybody's on Instagram, like relax, you know what I mean? But once again, they're not even talking about what really matters to them. Like, is it, hey, I want to find a wife, or, maybe I feel so insecure because the only thing that's ever gone well for me is my body. Right.
Yeah. Or what if I want to be married and the woman that I marry requires more family time, and she requires me to shut down the day at 4:30 and not work on weekends. And now all of a sudden my hours are cut in half. And now all of a sudden I might feel like my self-worth that I found in my net worth is going to be challenged. Am I willing to sacrifice potentially my business slipping, maybe financially, for a period of time, because now my real priority, my real meaning is to have this great relationship, or else she's going to walk. She's not going to put up with that. So now I have to find my identity in something greater than my success, my reputation that I've built. Now I need to ask myself, what really matters to me? And am I okay going into meetings with all these high rollers and saying, yeah, no, numbers actually slipped this year. No, we didn't kill it this year. We had a good year. But we didn't kill it this year. No, we didn't. We're not crushing it, Gary Vaynerchuk. We're not crushing it. We're doing well, but we're not crushing it. Sorry to say, but guess what? My identity isn't just found in my ability to crush business. It's my identity to crush other obstacles in my life that are preventing me from becoming a better man to my family and to the friends around me, and to like what people will actually talk about when I'm gone.
Yeah, I love that, because I can totally relate. I mean, like, I have this podcast and it's doing well. We've taken on a couple sponsors. Great. It's not banking. I'm not backing up the Brinks truck or anything. You know what I mean? But I love it. I'm passionate about it. Right. But it's also with the idea that, hey, if, in my head, sure, I could fly to California every other weekend. I could go to New York. I could do these big shows and rent a studio and have these people who only do in-person, shows. And I could really try to build this thing to a massive Joe Rogan style show. Right. But what's going to come with that is my wife's going to leave. My kids are going to see me on the weekends. And if that, right, because I might be traveling, I'm going to pay child support. And I'm going to feel like a POS man, right? Like I'm going to look at myself in the mirror, which, by the way, is the scariest place to be if you're not truthful to yourself. And I'm going to say, what happened? None of this is worth it, because the thing is, like you alluded to, or you talk about with marriage being the last piece, because it is the hardest piece, man. If going to the gym or doing a podcast or building a business was the key to a successful marriage, bro, I'd have the best sex of my life right now. You're killing the game, right, with the marriage stuff. But it's the hardest piece. How do you – and I know maybe your answer could be your faith and how you stay grounded and stuff, but how do you stay focused on what matters? Because you do have a lot going on. You have a lot of employees. You have a growing business. You've been in the game for a while. And now with the landscapes, shifting, where YouTube is big, Instagram is big, Facebook ads are still big. How do you check those boxes and be there where, and show up where you need to show up, but also say, man, my marriage and my kids, they're always up there. They're always number one, right? How do you do that and not get like frustrated sometimes, because at the end of the day, you want to provide, right? Like you're trying to provide, you're trying to set them up and make sure they're okay.
Sure.
But you also have this like, man, like I know my marriage and my mission is the most important thing.
Yeah, these are the real questions, brother. So I've got two great coaches. I'm a student of Craig Ballantyne and Bejas Cooley, and so I'll put them up a bit. Craig has taught me a lot about structure and how structure equals freedom. So I'm a man of structure, and that's one of my strengths. It's something that was developed when I was in my teens and through university. So I'm a huge believer in scheduling your day, scripting your day, and knowing what you're going to do before the day starts. So that's more like one of the things that has helped me just maintain my fitness year round. Like it's not a challenge anymore. It's I don't need motivation. I truly can say that with because world-class athletes don't need motivation, right? It's a habit, right? It's become a habit for them. So rain or shine, you just go.
You feel weird if you don't.
Exactly. So of course, I've kind of gravitated to that. And if someone's like, man, I don't resonate with that, Vince, well, then you might be in the season of life where you need to focus on that. That's just, a side note. And then when it comes to everything else, the things that, Bedros has really hammered home for me whenever we do our coaching calls is one, there's 5 things to, building a successful empire. One, you need to be a great leader. Everything comes down to leadership. Your income, your impact, it all comes down, your influence comes down to one thing and one thing only, leadership. And I realized that I've been a loose leader. Those were the terms he used on me. I pay him a lot of money, so he's not afraid. He's like, Vince, you're a loose leader, and you're not verifying the work your team is doing, and that's why you're getting frustrated. Here's what you need to do. So I have a coach that speaks openly into my life when it comes to business. So I discovered Vince is a loose leader. He's the guy where everybody on the team just says, yes, boss, we're doing it, boss. Yep, you got it. But I'm like, no one's verifying the results. So then when I see the numbers, I get frustrated. I have no one to blame but myself. So I've learned to become a better leader for my team and to equip them. And, there's obviously tons of books and stuff on this subject matter. So that's the first thing, leadership. The second thing is clarity of vision and having a clear-cut vision for your life. And if we're talking business, for me, I was telling you before the call, my number one focus is to help 50 men crush their online business in 2018. I have 30 guys I'm working with right now. So my number one focus is on having conversations with the guys that I could help take to the next income level. So that's clarity of vision. So now that I have clarity of vision, I get clarity of path. So if I know this is where I want to be in 12 months from now, I want 50 guys in the group. How is my day structured in a way where I am going to have the conversations and be creating the value that I need to have to make my mastermind a no-brainer for individuals. So those are the first 3 things. And then the 4th thing is to build a dream team. So to build a team around you to start supporting you in the day-to-day. That dream team could be an assistant for now. It could be 2 people. It could be, a data guy. It could be a media buyer. It could be a videographer. Whatever that looks like for your business model, you want to start building a dream team because you can't do this by yourself. And then the last thing is accountability. You need that accountability because it's so easy to get misaligned with our, what we say we're going to do than with what we actually do. So, Craig and Bedros are excellent at realigning me and just saying, Vince, you told me you're going to focus on this, but why are we talking about a clothing line right now? And
those threads are tight though, man. They look good.
They're awesome. Yeah. And, I put that in motion when I wasn't aligned, but it's just like being real here. Freaking clothing isn't cheap. Holy cow.
Dude, tell me about it. I have t-shirts and I'm like, oh God, imagine if I had everything, it's crazy.
So, we're going to do a run. It's already in motion. And, the way that, Bedros speaks to me is are you willing to sideline this if it doesn't support our number one goal? And I said, yes. And he goes, okay, then we can pause this conversation and move on to the next item on your list to discuss today. But if I said no, then it's now an indication that my actions aren't aligned with my clarity of vision. So that's really what it comes down, and having, the meetups with your coach on a regular basis, the monthly calls are really the secrets to success, because we constantly need alignment. Just like your car needs alignment, you're driving in a certain direction. There's nothing wrong with a car, it's kind of going a bit this way, a bit that way. But as long as we're still moving in the right direction, that's what matters most. So don't feel bad about yourself if one day you're oh shoot, I went from the fast lane to the slow lane. Say, okay, just steer the car back into the fast lane and just keep moving in that same direction. And that's what accountability is great for. Specifically, I think guys like you and I who we easily get, at least for me, I get led astray by what my coaches call the idea fairy. The idea fairy, yes. Every single idea day. Fairy, man. And just to kind of pat myself on the back, just for, a practical example, I'm about to launch supplements. I've wanted to launch this Actually, I'll rephrase that in a second. I was going to launch a supplement line, and the whole plan was to offer my own products based on what I use. And the plan was to come out with a whole workout bundle. And, you know, I looked at Jeff Cavalier. He's got his workout bundle. And I'm like, man, if he's got a workout bundle, I need a workout bundle. And he's got 3 products. And I'm looking at, you know, my pre-workout, my intra workout, my post-workout. And then I start looking at the numbers and like, this is going to spread me thin. And I wasn't super passionate about the intra workout or the post workout. What I'm really passionate about is my pre-workout. Like I travel with my pre-workout formula. I make it I take all the ingredients, I put it in Ziploc bags. I've been using this specific formula for a long time. It fuels my entire day so that I can work from 5:30 to like 4:30 every day, like fully focused, all hyper focused. And I get so much work done with this. I contribute it to this pre-workout. It keeps me jacked all day. I come off of it on the weekends so that I don't desensitize my caffeine receptors, whatever. I'm making this pre-workout, and I've sidelined the intra and the post. We're not doing it. I actually just had a conversation with it. It was in motion. The graphics were made, and I just said, we're not doing this. Cancel this. And it's funny because they actually both came back at me and they said, yeah, we were a little worried about hitting your timeline. We were getting spread thin. And we said yes to you because yes, boss. Yes, boss.
You're a loose leader.
We can make this happen, boss. Exactly. And they were like, hey, this is actually good news for us because the timeline you set for us wasn't going to happen. I'm like, really? Like, you know, they want to get paid. You know, they're doing what the boss tells them to do. So we sidelined 2 supplements, and we're coming out with just the pre-workout. And the pre-workout it fits into my entire business model, and we're going to continue to make this the best pre-workout in the industry. And that's it. So that's like much more focus, and it works into my primary vision with my fitness brand.
One thing that's unique to you is your wife is what it seems to be super involved, right, with you. And it's kind of hits homes for me because over the past 6 months, I've had a lot of requests for the females that I work with in our coaching business to get my wife more involved, right? Because they see pieces of her in my life, right? She's not as big on social media, but she's getting bigger, and she's got a lot of things to offer the universe as far as help, right? With being a mom, being a wife, being in shape, and all those things. And you know, I know there might be guys out there listening who, and I'm one of them for sure, but, you know, if you're considering, you know, how am I going to get my wife to buy in, right? Number one, into what I want to do, but also maybe even get like involved, because one thing we might be doing is getting my wife involved in our business in some sort of aspect, right? Because we think it could help a lot of people, but it scares the shit out of me, dude. Pardon my French. Sure. It really does. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because I'm like, well, I don't want her to get like really sick of me after, you know, a few months of working together closely and then going, man, this isn't what I was cut out for. And then it puts stress on our marriage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's a great conversation. Flavia and I just went through this recently. You know, when we got married, she launched FlaviLiciousFitness.com. She launched a couple programs, Full Body Licious, Curvilicious, Muscle Licious. Then she came out with the Flavilicious Cooking Cookbook. Now she's got the Mummylicious Challenge. So like all these were revenue makers. They put a nice amount of money in our bank account. You know, there wasn't chump change. So when we had our daughter, you know, what happened is most, you know, couples go through is you try and do everything. And you quickly start to realize that it's tough. It's really tough. And, you know, my main thing is like women need to trust their mommy instincts, as Flavia would put it if she was on the call right now. And she just realized this past summer through some input from a coach as well at an event that she just didn't know what she wanted to do. So I think the first question is to have the conversation with your spouse and find out what she wants to do. Like what's most important to her? What are her mommy instincts telling her? And again, this is obviously I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way of doing this. This is a conversation every couple needs to have honestly with themselves. And what we came to the conclusion on was that Flavia wants to be a stay-at-home mom. Let's put it that way. She deep down, we had daycare for, not daycare. We had a, what do you call we had a house, a nanny. Yeah. We had a nanny for a bit. She was awesome. And she was a great nanny. I felt like the kids were fine. They were getting plenty of attention. Sorry, my daughter just was the daughter. And then she felt that she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and she was trying to be a mom. She's trying to be a wife, and she's trying to run her business. Plus she's trying to take care of herself and look good. And then she's very relational. So maintaining all the relationships with the people in her family. She got burnt out, burned her into the ground. And this past summer, we just quickly realized, like, one, we don't need her to build her business, and we put it on pause. We just essentially said no to a lot of revenue. And we said, hey, trust me. I had to take leadership, and I said, hey, you can trust me. I know what I'm doing. I've got a plan. I've got a vision. I've got a path, and I'm executing on it. You don't have to worry if you're not contributing, because she felt like she needed to contribute to our family. Like, she didn't like the idea of me making all the money because she's contributed so much. And I'm like, Flavia, it's totally like, I don't know where that came from, but it's okay. Like, you're contributing more than you know. And that required me to then build her up and make her feel safe and say, when you are upstairs with the kids and fully engaged with them, I can work better in the basement. I can execute at a whole nother level when I know you're upstairs supporting me. And having those conversations led to the point where she's still stay-at-home mom. And we quickly kind of realized, like, my daughter's now in school, and my little guy, he's going to be in school, a year and a half. And then the house is going to be empty. So we're going to put some money on hold for 4 years. But, it comes down to each family just having the discussion on what's important to them, and ensuring that they're not trying to do too much, because we all have capacity. And again, it's hard to say no and to sacrifice, especially when, you have to really figure out what your values are as a family and what matters most. And she's fine with me working, but, at the same time, I have to shut down at 4:30 every day so that I can be with the family between 4:30 and 8:30. And in the evening times, if something's really urgent, I can come back down and work in the evening time, but I try not to. I try to, have some time with her, even if it's just 15 minutes of just at least talking, to have some form of friendship beyond just existing in the same house together, which
roommates.
Yeah, dude, yeah. Man, roommates. It's
so easy to fall into that.
All we are, do we even like each other?
Yeah.
It's we live in the same home, but we're always just talking about when was the last time we laughed? We went out on a date and I actually had a fun time, as opposed to just talk about what we needed to do next week and et cetera. So again, it comes down to what you value. And then finally, just realizing that, having kids is a beautiful thing. It definitely requires sacrifice, but it is a season of life. The kids are going to be in school before you know it, the house is going to be fully empty, and you're going to, it might just be a timing thing. Maybe you guys align forces when the timing's right. If you think you can do it now, then by all means, but just be prepared to be you know what, this isn't working. At least be honest, hey, this is not working. And if it's not working, let's have a conversation and let's pivot, and let's not make these decisions out of pressure of well, so-and-so's wife is working and they seem to be doing it. And you don't know what's going on under the hood, right?
Yeah, you never know.
You don't know what's going on in that family over there, right? Nobody talks about what's actually going on in the household. Right. Come on.
You don't know what's going on until you see an Instagram breakup and you're like, oh my gosh, I thought they were the perfect couple. What happened? Well,
yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
Exactly. So, and that's the challenge with social media. We compare our every day behind the scenes with everybody else's highlight reel.
That's my quote, dude. I don't know if I heard that from you or somebody else, but that's
it's not my
100%.
Yeah. Our pastor says something like that. And yeah.
It's crazy. So what are a couple, you talk about your structure a lot. You talk about, how you have kind of rules in place. Like you mentioned the 4:30 rule. I love that. What's a day in the life, just a couple habits and routines that you have on your day, every day, to ensure that you show up, whether it's, hey, maybe today is a work day and I'm crushing it from 8 to 4:30, whatever it is, or it's a weekend day where it's family time and I'm locked in and engaged. What are a couple habits and routines that people can at least hear from your perspective that have helped you with those things?
I think you have to have your non-negotiables. So one of my non-negotiables are my workouts. Like you'll always find me downstairs in my home gym or at Torque Barbell training. When I travel, working out is a non-negotiable, and it always gets done every single morning. So that sets my day, because that's when I take in my pre-workout. That's when my brain gets lit up. That's when the ideas start to flow. And then the night before, I always, we use, certain project management systems. We use Trello. So, we know which projects are what we're sprinting towards this week and what we're sprinting towards next week. The rest of the team knows what's going on. I have my Monday, we call them goal setting review days. So that's where I talk to all my key team members on Mondays to enable their week. So we're all on the same page. Hey, this is going to get done on Friday. All right, great. If you need anything, email me through the week so that this gets done on Friday. So, we have certain organization practices in place for productivity. And then, I really just script out my day based on, working the year backwards. And, one of the things that a little phrase, this is a great one that really grounds me quickly. I give Grant Cardone credit for this, is who's got my money? So at the start of the day, I always wake up and say, who's got my money? Even when I'm at an event, I walk into like an event with people. I'm like, who's got my money? And that quickly helps you figure out how to spend your time. And that helps you to avoid spending your time with people in the day that aren't going to move you towards your goal. So do I really need to create this video for Instagram, or are all these guys like just wasting my time? Do I really need to do this Insta story right now? Or do I have to write this email? Or do I need to create this product? Or do I need to have this conversation? Or do I have to have this? So you quickly get aligned with what projects matter when you ask that question first thing in the morning, preferably the night before, so that you can plan it out and hit the ground running the next day. But who's got my money? And if you know where you want to be in 90 days from now, what we do is we just figure out where you are today, and we look at the project. It's usually like one or two projects, and this is the hardest thing for most people. It's usually one or two projects that if you execute this thing, not just execute on it, but execute it well, and you have guys that you can go to. Like if you're trying to, scale a quiz funnel with Facebook ads, well, there are so many moving parts to that. But if that's your primary focus, like we're going to be spending X amount of dollars a day by March 1st, and we're spending this right now, then when you start your day, who you need to talk to on your team to like, all right, is this been done? Has this been done? Okay, no, we need copy. Okay, good. Copywriter, let's engage him. Okay, cool. A designer ready to get design. Okay, let's engage him. So now you quickly orient your entire day around those one or two initiatives that will get you to your 90-day goal. And then the next step is, what Warren Buffett says is the most successful people in life say no to almost everything. And that now just comes down to the discipline of, as Pedro says, putting the blinders on and not getting distracted by what I like to call penny projects, and to focus on dollar bill projects. And then you just orient your day around those one or two projects that if you execute on them well, then you will hit your 90-day goal, and then you reset, and then do that again for the next 90 days. Then you reset. And so it really just comes down to that, my favorite definition of focus, which is follow one course until successful. And just getting focused, getting that tunnel vision, and knowing what those projects are, and just knowing like where your roles are a part of these projects, and then what stuff you have to, maybe pay to get help on, or learn yourself maybe if it's a phase, or ask for help. Hey guys, I'm looking for a designer to get this, and then you just start to go about with the plan. So you come up with your plan, then you execute on the plan, and just really understanding like what is the thing that you're bringing to the table that nobody else can on your team. So what is your responsibility, and knowing whose shoulders every task falls upon. So like if there's conversion, like, well, who's in charge of conversion on your team? If it's growth for your podcast numbers, well, who's in charge of that? Is that your job, or have you hired somebody else to achieve that? And knowing like, okay, this is my job. Is it email deliverability? Is it email marketing? Is it, and just now knowing who is responsible for each piece of your business is so critical, because now we can delegate, okay, this is your KPI. These are your metrics. And if we don't hit them, we have to find out why. And if we're not hitting them, they're either the wrong person for the job, we have to move them elsewhere, or we have to move on and find somebody new. But that all comes down to that clarity of vision, that clarity of focus, clarity of path.
I love it, man. You're dropping so many knowledge bombs. It's like, I'm definitely going to go back and take more notes because this is just super valuable. I know that people listening are going to get tons out of this, man. What are, I always ask every guest, and it's kind of a funny question, but I'm always curious to know, what are 2 things, or even just one thing on your personal bucket list that you want to accomplish that you haven't accomplished yet, that's still out there? Maybe something crazy that you want to do and experience, or something that you just want to achieve. What are a couple things, even just one, that you still have that you're going to get done?
I want to really get plugged into Elevation Church and to the whole pastor seat circuit, if you will. And, I really want to become friends with these guys. And so I'm just trying to figure out, how can I create value? And, I've reached out to, Elevation Church, and I offered if I could do a muscle camp at their church. I'm speaking to one of their guys. So likely going to head down there to the Charlotte headquarters and connect. But like, I really like to get more plugged in to the church scene just because it's what gives me it's the most impactful thing, right? It's the most impactful treasure you can build. It's the only treasure that lasts, impacting people's spiritual lives. So nothing else, everything else fizzles out. It's all just dust on a trophy. So, just to really center my life around accumulating treasures that will last. So that's one of my personal things, just to start, over time, I like to bring all these guys on my podcast, but to build, I love to have like a whole new network of friends who are like the mega church pastors.
Yeah. No, I love their stuff. I'm jealous, man. We go to church and stuff, but yeah, I've had the awesome experience of checking out some really, really dope churches, like churches that make you like never want to leave, man. I just went to one actually. I think it was Grace Church down in Virginia Beach, where my mom and dad live. Very similar to Elevation. There's another one too, and I'm totally lost my train of thought, but there's a big one. I'm sure you know the name. That's great, and I love it, and I wish I could be down the street or close by. Even if it was a 30-minute drive, I would go, all the time. But yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I think there's a huge opportunity, and I think those guys and the people involved in those movements are, man, they're just taking the bull by the horns, and they're using social media. They're using things so effectively to spread the gospel, man, which is, these days it gets buried beneath all the crap. So yeah, it's super important. But
people are searching, right? Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
And everyone's on their own, everybody's, going through life at their own pace. But I think the big thing is that everybody listening needs to understand that there's 3 journeys we're all on: a physical journey, and that journey ends in death. Yeah. I don't know if you know, but there's 100% death rate.
Death and taxes, baby.
Yeah, exactly. So we're on an intellectual journey, and we're on a spiritual journey. And just to be willing to, like, I don't know what that means for you, the listeners, but like, what could that, what might be missing from my life that I might be trying to what appetites am I trying to satisfy? What thirsts am I trying to quench that just can't get met? Eating the, food, if you will, drinking the dead water, if you will, that you're putting into your body. And hopefully people find something that is rooted in real truth.
Yeah, 100%, man. Dude, thanks so much for coming on my show. This has been an absolute pleasure. I mean, the stuff you talk about is the important stuff. It's what people really do need to hear, whether they're ready for it today or not. I mean, this is, like, for guys especially, just incredibly powerful. So I hope that the listeners take this and they keep searching more into what you're doing. So where can people connect with you the best? Like, what's the best way for people to just reach out and get more Vince?
Yeah, I would say if they actually want to the new email inbox is Instagram. So people could just
Slide into my
literally,
DM.
yeah, slide into my DM. Yeah. Like Gary Vaynerchuk says, they could just hit me up on the DM on Instagram. That would be one spot. And I would say that's the best spot if they want to connect with me personally.
Awesome, man. Dude, thanks so much. This will be out soon, and I'm excited for the listeners to get a chance. I know my network will get a lot out of this. I have a lot of guys who will definitely feel connected to what you're talking about, and will be curious to hear more. So appreciate your time, brother.
Thank you, man.
I'm just going to hit stop recording.